As you can imagine, another area that can cross over between personal and business is education expenses. So there are two tests related to the deduction of educational expenses, and taxpayer needs to meet at least one of them to deduct it. So number one, educational expense must be paid to meet the requirements of the taxpayer's employer or the requirements of law or regulation for keeping the taxpayer's salary, status, or job, or must be paid to maintain or improve existing skills required in performing the duties of the taxpayer's present work. However, even if you meet one of the above tests, which have a bona fide business purpose, may be deducted even if education leads to a college degree. Fine, right? So that means just because you're getting a degree doesn't preclude you. However, even if one of the above tests is met, these expenses will not be deductible if the education is required to meet the minimum requirements for the taxpayer's current job, or the education is part of a program that will lead to a new trade or business, even if the taxpayer does not intend to enter that new trade or business. Oh yeah, and education, because it's so expensive, is rife for abuse. Now, let's think about the two bookends of this, right? So on one hand, you have employee training. So you send an employee out to get trained. Obviously, that costs money. You think of that usually as being a deductible education expense versus, boy, my administrative assistant's really sharp. I think I'm going to send her back, let her get an accounting degree so she can be a CPA. That's kind of at the other end. And so barring, the use of the educational assistance program, which we talked about as a fringe benefit back in probably chapter 4, that type of education expense probably not deductible, because clearly that's going to lead to a new trade or business. So education required by employer or law. So this is typically required to meet educational standards beyond minimum requirements. So we like to think of this as continuing professional education. I think they call it continuing law education for lawyers. But the expenses must be paid for education to maintain the taxpayer's current job, not to meet the minimum standards. The education qualifies the taxpayer for a new trade or business. They're not deductible. Maintaining or improving skills. Expenses deductible include the cost of continuing education courses, academic work at a college or university. However, it may not lead to a new trade or business. Deduction of a review course for the CPA exam and bar exam have been consistently disallowed by the IRS. What are the deductible costs? Your tuition, your fees, supplies, books, and travel, but only the right kind of travel. All right, we'll do home office in the next video.